is our correspondent in Brussels, joining us live. Dave, a very good evening to you. What's the latest you can tell us from where you are?
Well, all the leaders have arrived and they are now getting their meeting started up there. This is a weird one because this summit was called as an emergency summit in reaction to Trump's tariff threats on Saturday. But then last night he rescinded that threat. So we were left with the question of whether the summit was still happening. They decided to go ahead with it and bill it as kind of a broad discussion about transatlantic relations. But based on what the EU leaders were saying as they were coming in here over the last 2 hours, it's clear that everybody has a very different perspective about what just happened here. If you heard that soundbite from President Macron before, he believes that Trump backed down because the EU was tough, because Europe was tough, I should say, sending troops to Greenland, threatening to use the anti-coercion instrument. It's because the Europe stood up to Trump that he backed down. However, you could hear from the comments of several others, like Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, the leader of Lithuania, several others, saying that no, this was a result of European calmness. This was a result of Europeans wanting to negotiate with Trump. So you really have a different perspective. I don't think the leaders aren't in agreement right now about the narrative of the past several days. And that's going to be a problem because they need to decide tonight whether they're going to task the Commission with drawing up and preparing that anti-coercion instrument to use in case Donald Trump decides to go ahead with those threats after all. We heard all kinds of perspectives on this. It is clear that there is not unanimous approval to ask the Commission to do that. There's several leaders, from what I could hear from Germany's Chancellor Merz and also Italy's Meloni, they're worried that asking the Commission to draw that up is going to provoke Donald Trump and that you would undo the good development of last night because all of a sudden he can go back and say, how dare you draw up that plan? I am going to tariff you. But France, for instance, is very insistent that that needs to be drawn up, not to use it, but just to have it prepared and ready to go. Because the thing is, preparing the anti-coercion instrument, we're told, is going to take 3 months. So if they wait until the United States is actually tariffing the U.S., it will take 3 months to draw it up. If you start preparing it now, it makes it a much more credible threat because Europe can start using it at the drop of a hat.
Is this then, David, part of what Emmanuel Macron is talking about? Europe needs to remain vigilant, regardless of the fact that Trump has made this U-turn.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's also where they're clearly divided because you had some leaders coming in just now really, heaving a sigh of relief. Thank goodness everything's back to normal. And then you had others like the Danish Prime Minister, like the French President, cautioning, yeah, let's wait and see, where we need to remain vigilant here because, it's still not even clear. I don't think it's even clear to the Danish Prime Minister what this deal was last night between the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and Donald Trump. We've got kind of an outline now, we think, but it's basically just describing the arrangements that were already in place for the United States, which already, because of its treaty with Denmark, enjoys basically unlimited access to putting its troops in Greenland, to building bases. It doesn't appear that any concessions were actually made, but I think that European leaders are hesitant to actually point that out. They kind of want to go along with the fiction here that there was a deal and that concessions were made so that Donald Trump can sell that to his supporters. They don't want to humiliate him. They're trying to give him off-ramps in which he can still sell this as a victory. But if the deal is, as has been described as Bloomberg was reporting tonight, it really is simply the status quo restated.
Strange times, David. Thank you for explaining the ins and outs. Dave Keating, our correspondent, joining us there from Brussels.